This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we have another good neighbor on with us, and that is Leo Falkovsky of ReMax Hallmark. How's it going?
It's awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Sean. Grateful to be here.
No worries. Super happy to have you on the show. And sometimes this happens this way where we've never had an opportunity to meet each other. So first time meeting each other. So very excited. I always like to lead my conversations with curiosity. So I might have a couple questions for you outside of our normal questions, and we're looking to get to know somebody. So let's dive into it. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about your business?
Sure. I'm actually a double whammy. So I'm what you call a hybrid between finance and real estate. Started off in banking background. I worked for two top banks, TD and Bank of Montreal. Several years into the banking career, I got myself into what we call the mortgage hub of the banking unit. So essentially, I would underwrite mortgages for your local bank branch managers, right? So think of it as the mortgage. Not sure how much your listenerships know about the mortgage community, but it's kind of like going to a travel agent that's going to shop multiple airlines for you and find the best possible deal out there. So that's essentially where I started off. I started off in banking. They groomed me into management trainee program. I was a branch manager and then moved directly into the mortgage department where I would underwrite and approve deals for other mortgage brokers. Became friends with them naturally, lunches, dinners. I'm like, hey, it's not bad. You guys are chilling in your basements, drinking, sipping on hot cocoa and doing good for the world. I'd love to be a part of that. And, having a second young baby on the way, second daughter. And it was kind of scary. It's like, what do? Do you leave a comfortable position in the corporate world and go on your own? So, a small line of credit and a calculated risk. Came to my manager at the time. I said, hey, I think I could be more valuable to the organization, if I went on my own. If it didn't work out, do you think the doors would be open for me? I mean, they'd always welcome me back. So I took a risk, got into the mortgage broker world. I got into as an in-house mortgage broker. I think it was Century 21 at the time. Met a lot of great people, a lot of great real estate agents, started underwriting and originating mortgage loans for the real estate agents. Through that network, I became very well familiarized with what are called real estate investors. These are people that purchase property for profit, and slowly got involved in that world. And one of them said to me an interesting thing, because I'd always refer real estate agents whenever a partner would, a borrower would ask. And one of them said, you know what, didn't have the best experience with the last person. Why don't you do real estate as well? I'm like, really? I mean, well, okay, because I kind of do mortgage brokering full time. Do you promise to use me if I got my license? And he said, yeah. And I thought, made a few calls, called a few other clients, and I got, 10 or 12 referral partners on board, and decided to get my real estate license. And what I learned from that, Sean, is that although you can't be everything to everyone, you can. I realized like the mortgage and real estate world were intimately connected, right? It's like the left hand and the right hand. So yeah. You're in a position where you can pre-qualify a borrower and know exactly what their upper limits are in terms of qualification, and at the same time, because the familiarity with contracts and clauses and whatnot, I was able to help people find that perfect property resident, whether it was real estate investment property or a personal home residence. That's what I specialize in. First-time home buyer, step-up buyer, downsizer, That's sort of my niche. And from there, it just snowballed into an amazing, not so much, not only a business, but friendship with so many people. I'm blessed.
Very cool, man. Let me ask you, you talked about being able to get out there and help more people if you went on your own. What, for those who don't understand, could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. So on the mortgage side, for example, everybody's always asking, people are conscious, you're not really buying a property, you're more buying a payment, right? So it's like when you're purchasing a vehicle, what's going to be my monthly payment if I'm borrowing or leasing? Kind of that same philosophy applies for home ownership, right? Like, sure, everybody likes an ideal property, whatever that looks like to the borrower, to the person. But essentially, what they're really asking is what's going to be my payment. But there's a layer behind that. They don't know to ask that question. So the first thing they ask is, the only question they ask is, what's going to be my rate, right? So that's kind of like the preload to the next stage. Once you determine what they qualify for and what they're comfortable with, that sort of preempts them into the next stage, which is what type of property, what type of budget we're working with, down payment, etc.
So you do both. Do you have a
Yes.
passion for one over the other? Because I know you kind of sort of maybe not fell into it, but because it goes hand in hand. So you ended up getting on the real estate, or maybe even a better question, what do you love about each component of doing the mortgage side and the real estate side?
Sure, it's a great question. Honestly, at the end of the day, it boils down to one factor. It's the human connection. Trying to help the person, whether they're purchasing a property or they're requiring a mortgage loan. It's getting to know the person, their needs, their goals, and trying to connect with them on a more intimate level, and getting to know their circles and friends and so on. So it's hard to define which one I like more. They both offer slightly different parameters, I would say. Like, for example, mortgage brokering, it's more the numbers crunching, sitting in an office, sitting behind the desk. I'd love to get out there. I want to see people. I want to see, I want to drive my car and see the street lights. I want to see shops. I want to see life. Like the pandemic nearly killed my soul. So thank goodness for that. That's, so I think it's kind of like having that balance between the two, that not only a differentiating factor from my colleagues who either practice one or the other, and that's great, but I kind of love having the dynamics of offering both services.
And both very custom approaches. There's a lot of real estate agents out there. It's a flooded market with how many people offer those types of services. Would you say there's a competitive advantage because you do both?
Never look at it that way. I look at it like this. There are roughly 8 billion people on the planet. I don't know if I'm right. You cannot be one thing to everybody. There's always something for somebody, right? I can tell you this: out of 60 or 80,000 other real estate professionals out there, I refer to them as colleagues. There's no such thing as competition in my world. A competitor for me is the guy that's reflecting back at me in the mirror. Can I be better the next day and the next day than I was today? There's only one Leo Falkovsky. There's only one Sean Preston. That's the way I look at things. You're not going to be everything to everyone all the time, and that's okay. And that's what makes the world go around. It makes commerce work. I love it. It's a perfect system.
Very well said. I always love having different walks of life, different people who do different things, getting to know them, getting to know how they solve people's problems out there. And it's really fascinating because everybody's got their own story. Everybody's story is unique to them. And so when you were describing your business, you mentioned, kind of that journey, that how you got into the mortgage side of things, starting a corporate, going out on your own, and then that tying into real estate. And this is now what you're doing today. But what I want to know, and what our listeners probably want to know, is what was that journey like for you leading up to doing what you're doing today?
I think, Sean, it starts with a deeper question. What's the purpose to why we do what we do? Family always came first. Still comes first. What level of lifestyle can I provide for the family, and what level of service can I provide to my database, my inner circle of close clients, right? If I can provide more value and leave the world a better place than before I came in, I've done my job. That's what makes me tick.
Characteristics of a good quality human being. So how long have you been doing this for now?
I went on my own May of 2000, but I started in the banking late 80s, early 90s. I was the guy in the only blue suit I had. I was 20 years old. Borrowed my dad's 1979 Chevy Impala back in those days. If you want to meet a branch manager, you can do it in person. You don't have to digitally meet 3-4 different interview processes. I got into the car with a stack of resumes, and I'd walk into every corner store branch and just ask, may I meet the manager? And if they're busy, which oftentimes they were, no worries. This is my resume. I'd love an opportunity to spend 5 minutes with them. And I did that for about 3 or 4 months. Not sure how well you remember early 90s. The economy was not in the best place. It took a lot of grit and effort. I was just starting out, but boots to the ground. I was meeting great people, and believe it or not, some of them actually gave me the time of day. And although some of them would say, well, we're not hiring right now, but we'll keep your resume on file for now. We'll introduce you to somebody that may be in the future. And it's all about building those connections. Those were kind of like the cornerstone building blocks that I started off.
Well, I'm only 35 years old, so I was born in 1989. So I was still a young buck when you were getting going. Not to date anybody on the show, yourself or myself included, but growing up and learning through school and stuff like that, the different economic times and how that was back in the day. A lot of the ways on how you were doing things is stuff that people still carry and appreciate that. A lot of what COVID did and the digital age moving into what it is. And we're doing a podcast together now digitally, but a lot of people still appreciate that personal touch when somebody makes that effort to come in and shake their hand and meet face to face. It's still highly regarded amongst us.
Absolutely, Sean. And just for the record, I was not implying that you were, in fact, around in those days, but I'm 35 in my mind as well, by the way, but I just happened to be starting out in the early 90s.
Yeah, I'll always stay a kid at heart. I remember when my fiance and I first together, we still do this from time to time, but we'll make forts. Like we're kids. We got Nerf guns and little army figures. We'll pop those bad boys around the basement and awesome. And shoot them like back when we were like 13, 14 years old. So you got to do things to keep yourself young on the inside.
You'll notice as you move along this journey that age is just a number, if you allow it to be. Plus the aches and pains.
Yeah, exactly, right? I'm just starting to come around on that. Just at the tip of it, but I'm sure I'll get there just like everybody else. So tell me, myths, misconceptions, you get both sides of it, so feel free to elaborate.
Absolutely. Like people think that initially, why come to a mortgage broker when I can go to the cornerstone bank and shop the rate myself? There's got to be a hidden agenda. The reality of the situation is, yes, there are brick and mortar branches. You have your local RBC, TD, and look, we work with these branches, these banks, but there's also a hidden world that most first-time buyers or even step-up buyers don't know about. They don't know that there's another layer to the process, the non-bricks and mortar. So there's a community of mortgage brokers that, if you come to them, they will take your application and shop and have access to literally dozens of not private, we call them monoline lenders, right? Like there's what everybody knows, the big five, TD, RBC, CIBC, right. But there are so many other lenders out there. Like I can mention a few names. Some may hear of them, some may not. RMG, MCAP, First National, and these are more. All they do is originate mortgages. They don't do the traditional other concierge services like investments, RRSPs. And when you come to a mortgage broker, unlike a Cornerstone branch, to apply for a mortgage, we don't offer what they call as tie selling. Like we're not going to ask you to open up a bank account or open up an RRSP to get a lower rate. And the reason our rates are sometimes better or more lucrative than the traditional branches is because the lenders we deal with in the mortgage community don't have that bricks and mortars infrastructure. So the savings gets passed on to the consumer. And the best part is our service is absolutely free. We don't charge the client. We get paid a referral fee by that lender. So I would say that's probably the biggest myth or misconception. Mortgage brokers do not charge fees unless, of course, we're doing a private deal. I don't want to confuse the process, but there are different layers. Like there's what's called an A lender, which is like if you have a perfect situation with credit, employment, you're not self-employed, you're a T4 employee, you go to the bank, it's a slam dunk. What if you're self-employed? What if your net income after expenses is significantly lower? What if you've had blemishes in the past? Maybe you were irresponsible with credit because nobody taught you how to be responsible, and that carried weight with you as you got older. So we find, or hey, life happens, like the D's, divorce, death, disease. Life happens to people, and sometimes they lose a job, and the credit can be diminished as a result of that. And we offer relief for situations like that. And in that case, we charge a reasonable mortgage brokerage rate that's outside the typical bank. But again, that's alternative lending, if you will.
Beautiful. You covered the mortgage side. What about on the real estate side? Do you have a myth or misconception for us?
Myth or misconception? People think that, the first question they ask is, what's your commission? And my response to that is, what's more important to you? How much you want to net your home sale for, or how much commission you pay? And it gives people thought, like, no, of course I want to net the most I can. I said, so how about we leave the commissions to me, and I'll work on netting you the most, right? Because people think that, so and so is with ReMax. ReMax is traditionally more expensive than like a Right at Home or a discount broker. And I asked another question. Do you want a discount on the sale price of your home, or do you want to net the maximum you can? And then I go into the journey of breaking down the myths of what the actual fees go towards. So many factors come to play. In order to net the most for your home, you have to hire the right agent. The right agent will hire the right photography crew, the right videographer, the right stager to present your property in the best light it possibly can, and use marketing strategies in order to draw the maximum amount of eyeballs to your property in order for you to net the most. So hopefully I answered that.
No, you did. It boils down to education, right? At the end of the day,
absolutely.
The more people that are educated on it probably aren't going to ask those questions because they'll already know the answer to it. And that's why we love asking some of those questions on the show, to be able to bring some of these things to light so people have that knowledge to be able to empower themselves when they're making decisions out there, right?
It's a great question. Glad you asked.
So as a business owner, and myself included, being able to have our own business, we are very passionate about it. You can clearly tell on your side of the fence you're quite passionate about what you do. And so when we're passionate about things, it doesn't really feel like work, does it? Right? We get to do what we do our job, and and it feels great doing it. So we can often dump a lot of hours into that as well too, because that business is not, it's not like you have your business and your personal life like everybody does, but the business is integrated into who we are as human beings. So it makes it a little bit easier when we need to get things done, when we're getting out there, so we're having fun doing it. But there is that line that's there. I don't call it a balance, because a balance means things are perfectly equal, and we tend to work a little bit more than we do get to play. So I like to say it's more like a harmony between the two, finding that tune that's the right tune for that unique individual, and how they kind of thread the needle, so to speak. So when you're not working on your business or in your business, what does Leo like to do for fun?
Oh, geez. I have a lot of, I guess, passions, if you will. My day starts off computer online chess. Believe it or not.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. I go on chess.com, whoever, because it's hard to find people that are up at 6, 7 in the morning that want to play you in person. So thanks to the digital transformation, we have chess.com. It's free to join. You can play people from different parts of the world, and you can chat with them. So, you're playing with somebody from Australia, hey, what's the weather like? What's the economy like? And you get to build little friendships as you're playing, followed by, a big proponent of health and fitness. So I go to Athletic Culture. That's my go-to. It's across the street from my office. And after that, I come into the office. In the summers, you'll catch me on 2 wheels, whether it's with or without an engine, doesn't matter. I love both.
Nice.
Yeah, just anything outdoors in the wintertime. I just love to go on a nature walk, or if I'm brave enough, I'll go on skis again. Damaged my knees many years ago, but blessed to be living moments from Horseshoe Valley as well as Snow Valley. So living here in beautiful Springwater Barrie allows you the luxury of doing that. We moved here from the GTA roughly 3 years ago, and honestly, we pinch ourselves every single day we're here. I had no idea you can live like this. Coming from congestion, and I didn't even know parts of the country like this existed. I found a home for someone like 10, 12 years ago, and brought my wife at the time, introduced her to the neighborhood. She instantly fell in love, but the timing wasn't right back then. So I'd say it was a 9-year passion project to move up here. It's been
You answered a bit of the question I was about to ask, because we've had enough guests on the show who have moved from the GTA up here into Barrie, let's call it Simcoe County. And it is different. It's very different. The culture of people here are different. The lifestyle is very different. My future brother-in-law and my youngest sister lived in Newmarket for the longest time, and he commutes to Brampton every day. He's a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And when he moved up here, he's like, I never thought I would like it as much. He goes, it's peaceful here. It's quiet here. Everything that I need is here, and it makes it worth it. Before, without knowing that information, making that commute was just a hard no for him. Where now, because of everything else that he benefits from being here, that commute is worth it. And then, of course, you have others who ended up being able to move up here and then continue to work, whether they still commute or don't. But what was that experience like for you? Because I think our community members who are native to here or been here for a little bit longer, they already know this, and I think they like to be reminded of it, because it's a pretty special place here.
Yeah, honestly, Sean, it's like I said, like we were pinching ourselves. We still are. I had no idea trees like this exist. You have beautiful bodies of water, right? Like, you want to see trees, you buy a picture and you put it up on a wall. But these trees are real. Nature is real. I would say, like, it changed quite a bit in the last 3 years. There's a lot more going on, a lot of construction, which is good. But the negative aspect of it is the clearing of the trees. This is the saddest part. We've seen quite a bit of clearing and expansion going on. There, as we sit here and speak, like they're still expanding to 400. They're building communities like Midhurst Valley, like and further. So I don't know how much longer it's going to be peaceful. And hey, I'm probably part of the problem. I've moved several families here from the GTA since I've been here by telling them about it, and everybody thanks me for it. They love it.
Yeah, I would disagree with you on that. I think people, when they move here, they assimilate to that culture because the people here guard that culture very hard. So it can grow. There's room to grow, but people really look out for one another here. And for the most part, because people are people, but for the most part, people really treat each other very well here. And so, knowing the hustle bustle of the GTA and the differences between the cultures down south to up here, I think it's an appreciated thing, and I think they like being treated that way. So they in turn reciprocate that treatment to other people, and I think that's one of the things I personally believe of why that culture is going to stay here in Barrie across Simcoe County. With regards to the trees, I saw something on social media yesterday, like out in London, there's one tree per population, like per person. So if we just did a good job at, like, when we're removing the trees to be able to plant more and plant them in the proper areas, we can still keep that surrounding. We just need those people who are removing them and have them, kind of assist in that process. And then other groups and community members of people would be able to get out there and put the right trees in the proper places. We can still keep it beautiful, but we got to make that effort.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're bang on in terms of the culture. Very different. I just, it feels like there's a lot starting to go on here, right? I say that out of fear, not to lose the beauty that we have. I'm hoping that we have the governing councils involved to preserve what we have.
Yeah, totally with you on that one. We're pretty close. We're partnered with Andy and her charity, Barrie Living Green, one of the only, if not the only, environmental charities around here. So we do pretty good at trying to give them as much support as we can. And they've got a pretty cool plan. They plant trees every year, and they do our part. So we definitely want to support them and encourage them. And a shout out to Athletic Culture. We're pretty tied in with those guys. They've got a fantastic business, super involved in the community. We love those guys. So shout out to Jake and Jeff and Ian, all those guys over there. You guys are rock stars. We love you.
Absolutely.
So in life, we pick our path, right? We decide to walk this path. That's the path of life, right? And sometimes life just gets in the way because life is not easy. It's just the way it is. And sometimes it'll throw challenges at us. It'll throw obstacles, roadblocks. We need to overcome these. And I've always been admired at how human beings are able to overcome these challenges in life, right? Growth comes from being uncomfortable. And we can really blossom as human beings, but trying to find silver linings where we can, because sometimes those life challenges come in forms of tragedy. Some people experience them a little bit more than others, but having that right mindset, seeing the glass half full, because we have to move forward, right? We don't have a choice. We have to move forward. And like we were talking about at the top, just trying to make the world a better place. There's a lot that goes into it. Obviously the phase of suck is never fun when you're having to go through these, but pulling those silver linings and holding on to hope sometimes can be the difference between when something detrimental happens or going through these challenges helps us move forward. So I wanted to ask you if you ever experienced a hardship, a life challenge, maybe it made you better, maybe it made you stronger, maybe you pulled some silver linings from it.
Who, me? No, never. How much time do we have? Honestly, like I don't know how many examples. Listen, coming from three different downturns, being over 3 decades in this industry alone, I've seen a lot. You're bang on. If you can't find the silver linings, then you have to keep breaking the vessel until it keeps expanding. What how's that saying? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, type of thing. And it's true. You just sometimes we have to look for the lessons, and if we don't learn the lesson as a result of the hardship, the lesson may come back again in a different form. But what stands out the most, I would say, is when we had the back in 2017, not too long ago. It was probably the last downturn before the pandemic, and now this, the Fair Housing Act got announced, and we had a red hot market leading to it back in 2016. There were bids south of us in upscale areas like Forest Hill and Bridle Path. Neighbors would congregate and say, "Hey, how much over asking did you pay for that home?" Who, me? Oh, I paid 200,000 over. Oh, that's nothing. We paid 300 over. And you probably recall that time when things just kept escalating. And this is what pretty much breaks my heart, because that's what made housing unaffordable for the future generation going forward, unless it's condos. We hope better times come. But pricing is very, very steep as a result of that. So the government introduced a 15-point cooling mechanism called the Fair Housing Act, along with the mortgage stress test, which means you have to qualify based on a high rate. Anyway, as a result of that, I distinctly remember being involved in a sale in North York, where I sold a home prior. I think it was February or March of 2017. I sold a property in the peak for a client, and the buyer also they went firm and everything. It was a multiple offer situation. They waited a few months to try to play the float, because prices were kept going up. They were trying to capitalize on selling their home for even higher than they would have if they listed it right away. Unfortunately, as a result of this introduction of the fair housing market, their home went the other way instead of going up, and therefore they couldn't get the money they were anticipating, and they couldn't close the deal. So that prompted a 5.5-year lawsuit because they couldn't close. My client suffered damages because they couldn't close on their home. Anyway, talk about setbacks and challenges. That was a good one.
So this is something that personally affected you?
Sure. I mean, being dragged through courts for 5.5 years was very daunting. I'm not a fan of the court system, and I felt horrible for my clients. I'm an empath, so I feel my clients' stress. So I ended up selling their home for significantly lower than what they sold initially for, and did my best to bridge a gap. And they were looking to downsize, not have a mortgage on the new property. As a result of this, they ended up having a huge mortgage. So, my heart was breaking for them, and being dragged through the court process for 5.5 years as a result of it. So, but there were many, many cases like that across the country. Many cases. It just sucks.
Is there anything like a life challenge that you've personally experienced maybe in the last 20 years that maybe brought you some challenges that you had to personally overcome?
Personally, it's difficult for me to talk about, but divorce, it's one of those things you don't plan on, but sometimes things don't work out. In fact, the stats show that 50% or higher don't work out, and that's something I have been dealing with, and I'm still dealing with. And it's like you said earlier, try to find the silver linings, and maybe the silver lining is I wouldn't have found my amazing new partner that I've been with for the last 15 years.
Yeah, we were talking about the universe earlier and how it seems to take care of itself, and you obviously never want to wish any of that stuff on anybody. But having gone through it and then seeing what you have now, again, it's those silver linings. One door closes, another door opens, and you never know what that other door is going to be when it does. So that phase of suck when that first door closes, but once we get to walk through a couple of other doors, sometimes the grass is greener on the other side.
Absolutely. And it helps me understand my clients that have been going through the process as well, and to be empathetic to what they're going through. And
Totally.
Yeah. So, sometimes things happen for reasons we don't see or understand, but they do.
So what's one thing, Leo, that you wish our listeners knew about your business?
I know the word "I care" is a catchphrase these days, but I truly do. I believe that our Creator gave us 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. That's to listen twice as hard or as much than we speak. The first thing I do is when I meet somebody new or by referral is to listen to their journey uninterrupted, even when it's unrelated to the business. Try to extract as many nuggets as I can in order to help them on their journey. And that's probably the one thing that keeps me excited every single day, not knowing who you're going to meet, because every single person you meet takes you on a new trajectory. And guess what? We end up learning from them as well.
Yeah, that's what's cool about the people business, and being able to meet all different kinds of people and getting to know their stories, sharing their experiences, sharing some of your own, and getting to make those relationships and connections. At the end of the day, as human beings, that's just how we're wired, right? So
Absolutely.
That's what makes it kind of fun to go to work sometimes.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure there's definitely going to be some people that are interested in wanting to learn a little bit more about what you offer, maybe reach out, get to know you a little bit more as a human being. And so for those who are, what would be one of the best ways that they can go ahead and do that?
Yeah, it's just pick up the phone and call me. Don't worry about sending a text first. Can I call you? Pick it up. If I'm unavailable, I'll always call back. I could be reached on my cell. 416-356-6968, or my email is just like my name, leo@leofalkovsky.com. If you're able to link that into the show notes would be awesome. And one other thing I'd love your listeners to know is that I'm hands-on. I don't have a team. I do everything pretty much from start to finish myself. So I'm hands-on that way, and I do it for a reason, because I want to be involved in every single phase of the process.
Love it, man. Awesome stuff. That was a great conversation. Super happy to have you on the show, and wish you all the best down the line.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean. Keep doing the great work you and Jeff are doing.
You too, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpwithjeffandsean.com. That's gnpwithjeffandsean.com, or call 705-413-3775.